Hi, this is Bryant Dillon with Fanbase Press. We're here at Comic-Con 2016 at the Dark Horse booth. And I'm here to talk with writer Jon Layman about a very exciting series. We've got Predator versus Dredd versus Aliens. Let's just start off with, for people that are just hearing this title for the first time, how do these three iconic franchises, or characters I guess you can call them, how do they end up together?
It takes advantage of Judge Dredd's world more than the others,
Sure.
because they crash land on Earth. In this case, the predator crash lands into the cursed Earth, which is an apocalyptic wasteland in this dystopian future of Judge Dredd's. And in the middle of the cursed Earth, there's a swamp called the Alabama morass.
All right.
And they basically, this predator crash lands into this almost kind of like tribe of Island Dr. Moreau man-animal hybrids. Because in Judge Dredd's world, there's all kinds of the villains are very wacky and crazy and over the top and satiric. And they've been all put together by this mad scientist leader of theirs, who's just a genetic nut. And it's oh wow, this alien just landed. And by alien I mean predator. Let's capture him. Let's make the predator prey and start doing genetic experiments. But then once they get into the predator's ship, the predator species keeps trophies.
Right.
Here's this crazy alien skull. What the hell is this, and what's its DNA hold? So the mad scientist, rather than an egg, and something. This time he's actually taking alien DNA, and
awesome.
So it's you got to play on the predator because he's the prey, and then you've got a scientist, bringing the aliens back through DNA rather than the way they've been brought back in other or brought in other movies and fictions.
Now you've written with the Alien franchise before for Dark Horse. Am I correct in saying this is your first stab with Judge Dredd?
Yes. Judge Dredd's been a bucket list. I have a list of things that that I do. I'm not doing for the money. I'm doing for love. In theory, that's everything.
Sure.
But there are some things that you love even more, and they're you want to write Judge Dredd? Well, I want to write Judge Dredd. Do you want to write it with Aliens versus Predator? Oh, holy crap! Yes, I do. And IDW knows me. I do a lot of work with IDW, and we'd been dancing around Judge Dredd for a long time. The timing was never right, and they're well, someone else has the ongoing, and we're doing this, but hey, we're doing this mini. Do you want to hear about it? Yeah, Aliens versus Predator. So yeah, it was creatively, it was a slam dunk. Yeah, and the thing is, this is all comics. You say, oh, this is going to be fun. And of course it turns out to be work, because writing is work.
Of course.
But it's still fun. The actual writing part of it, for me, always sucks, and I hate myself, and I'm in agony, and the script's no good, and I'm never going to finish it, and all these, crazy writer living in a cave kind of thing. But then eventually it gets finished, you're wow, this is really freaking awesome. This now that it's done, it's a lot of fun, and no one will know the blood and sweat and and tears that went into it.
Well, I will say I had a chance to read the first issue. I think it's started off phenomenal.
I'm pretty it's funny because a few reviews have been well, the aliens weren't really in it. It's well, have you ever watched an alien movie?
Yeah,
you ever watch a horror movie? The monster doesn't show up until the second reel.
Right.
At you don't see the shark, you don't see Jaws until in the end. You see the fin, you see hints of what's to come.
Yeah, you don't want the climax in the first issue.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So each issue gets crazier, and then eventually, this is no big surprise because it has to happen. The action comes back to Mega City 1.
Oh boy.
Which is when the shit really hits the fan.
Oh boy, I'm looking forward to that. So what is it specifically? I read that you were a childhood fan of Judge Dredd. So what is it specifically that really calls to you about this character? What made him on your bucket list?
I think. It's sort of first of all, Brian Bolland, growing up, was one of the first. There's a point when you read comics where you start recognizing artists.
Yeah, right.
And they're not all the same, and they have styles. And Brian Bolland was one of the first people I'm oh, holy shit, people draw different stuff, and this guy is awesome, and I like him, and I want to draw like him. And of course, I never could, and it was terrible. But between gravitating to that character, that artist, and then these crazy over-the-top stories that were really satiric and really wacky, and they really appealed to my sense of humor. And then he's this like humorous, like, oh, you're a jaywalker, I'm gonna shoot you in the head. Like, that's funny. And like he's like this uber humorless fascist in this crazy world, makes it even funnier. So I've just always loved, for all those reasons, I've loved the character. And it was always an English comic book. I thought, okay, I'll never get the chance.
Right.
And then then IDW gets it, and then things have a way of snowballing.
Sure.
So,
was there anything particular that you were really excited about with the idea of crossing him over with these two other franchises?
Well, I wanted to take advantage of the weirdness, and I did that via the Mad Scientist.
Sure,
he's kind of like a vehicle for this, because he inserts alien DNA into a judge. So you've got a judge alien. This has been done before, but he does it into a predator. You've got a predator alien.
Yeah.
And then the weirdness that happens, it's this island of Dr. Moreau where there's man-animal hybrids.
Right.
So you get like aliens with like antlers and rhinoceros horns, and like I'm turning up the crazy on the Aliens franchise.
Okay.
Too, and the Predators are actually kind of the good guys who end up working with Dredd.
Okay.
To stop the Predator thing. So again, I'm trying to tweak your expectations to what normally you expect Judge Dredd is going to be. And there's some, of course, it's a comic book. There's some initial conflict.
Sure.
But to have Dredd working with at least a couple Predators to go after the aliens seemed cool and unexpected to me.
Definitely. Well, you've given us a lot of hints about what's to come from the rest of the series. Is there anything else that you could let us know about what to expect from the next 3 issues?
Just increasing craziness. Each issue gets more bonkers than the last.
Excellent. And the final question I wanted to ask you was, now that you have this one under your belt, is there anyone else in the pop culture spectrum or comic book spectrum that you'd like to pit against Judge Dredd?
Well, I was writing Mars Attacks for a while, and I'm a slow writer who can only balance so many projects, and I'm really good at saying no. Mm-hmm. There was a point where they're like, oh, do you want to do Mars Attacks Judge Dredd? And I'm like, I would love to, but my schedule doesn't allow it. Like, I couldn't do a good job, so I have to say no. And now I see the covers of them, and I'm like, damn it, that could have been me. And it's not what I want to do, it's what I could have done that really, twists the knife. But this kind of makes up for it.
Definitely. Well, Jon, thank you so much for talking with us. We're really looking forward to the rest of the series.
Appreciate it.
And this has been Bryant with Fanbase Press. You can find more interviews like this one at fanbasepress.com.